not, so I can speak into the microphone. Internal mic. You might I move it kind of close in between. Yeah. Okay. Actually, this would be good here.
Good. So I just wanted to check whether it's actually.
If it's
Okay.
Good. It's transmitting.
Okay, we're transmitting.
Or broadcasting.
Just to check whether it's actually.
So is everyone listening to us now?
Yep.
If they're doing, hello, everyone. We're just testing out some technical issues.
So, hi everyone. This is Chris Radford, and I'm sitting here with
Henry. And good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us.
So welcome to another one of our Sunday evening hangouts. We haven't done one for a few weeks, but Henry, you've been looking at some recent conditions and looking at some recent research, and there's some things that you wanted to share. Do you want to just introduce what we're going to talk about today, and then we'll have a little bit of a look at the conditions, and then we'll come on to the subject.
Sure. I think the theme that we decided to put forward for this evening's chat is why a thin snowpack often leads to a much more unstable situation than a very thick snowpack. And of course, what I mean by snowpack is the total amount of snow from the ground to the surface. It's not some new brand of backpack. Through that process. There was a couple of other specific points that I wanted to communicate. One of them was to cast some light on the actual definition of a danger rating of 3, and the other one was the recent research on glide cracks or gliding snow avalanches that are also known in French as plaque de reptation or plaque de fond. And some revelations on that and confirmations, mainly around the fact that these things are not like slab avalanches. They don't have weak layers in them, and they are not triggered by people. And therefore, that's the reason why they haven't led to very many accidents in the past, even though they look like they're ominous.
That's great, Henry. Thank you. Yeah. So we're going to have a look at those subjects. But I thought before we did that, we'd just have a quick reflection on the current conditions.
Current conditions, yes. And again, a contribution from Wayne Watson from Alpine Experience here. A nice image of someone skiing in a place, I believe, in the Teen area called the Vallon de la Sache.
And what I've noticed by looking at Wayne's pictures and looking at my own experience of being out there this week is that the most obvious feature is the wind, and wherever it was that Wayne went here, he must have found somewhere that was in the lee of the wind.
Yes, well, definitely. When you talk about the wind, it's the wind that that built up last week, last Wednesday especially, and battered the snow so badly that what was an awesome beginning to the week of Monday, even Sunday in the clouds, Monday and Tuesday, even Wednesday in the wind, there was some fantastic snow we had in the northern French Alps, and especially in the Savoie area where I do a lot of skiing, and fantastic snow. And then it just got battered by the wind on Wednesday, which unfortunately beat it up so badly that a lot of places ended up just with breakable crust. Not very nice to ski in. But as this photo points out, this is from today, Sunday, the 13th of March. Are we here today? Yeah. There is some really good snow around, even from not too far away from the lifts. But you do have to walk and search it out to get to it.
So, I mean, I've noticed. There are two main pitfalls in finding decent snow at the moment. We just talked about the wind. The other one is slopes with more of a southerly aspect of getting sun crusted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The southerly aspects are that's not the wind. Yeah, that's the sun that's melted the top bit and frozen it, and it's become breakable crust. We're not quite ready for the nice smooth spring snow that comes about through really hot days. and cold nights. So the southish facing slopes, or slopes that are exposed to the sun, are not very nice now. So there's fairly limited area where there's some nice snow.
And we had a similar experience. This is in, how do you pronounce it?
La Tuile.
La Tuile.
La Tuile and Italy. The other side, the Italian companion resort to La Rosière. So you got over there and you just found some nice snow. You said it wasn't tracked out at all, even on low angle slopes and things, not too far from the piste.
Yeah, there were tracks immediately at the side of the piste, but you didn't have to push very hard and very far.
Yeah.
And again on the La Rosière side, you'd go up and think, oh, this is terrible. It's all wind. It's all crusty. The wind has got
the wind got to it in the sun
and then just think, well, hang on a minute. If the wind was blowing up this slope and you could see that in the shapes on the snow, then it must be all right. It must be all right over the ridge.
Well, you can see. Speaking of ridges, you can see on the top of this ridge there's massive cornices that are overhanging the slope. And usually we point out that there's a double-edged sword with that. There's the issue of wind loading, which can add extra weight to a slope and potentially make it kind of unstable. But that's also where the good snow is protected from the wind. But seeing as though the avalanche danger has gone down significantly in the last 5-6 days, these are areas where you can find some really, really good snow. And as long as you're not skiing over really steep slopes or skiing on very steep slopes over terrain traps like cliffs and things like that, you can find some really good snow in places. And this is another thing that I've found about finding good snow that really doesn't have anything to do with Mother Nature, but it just has to do with the fact that ski areas that are not known for their great off-piste often have great untracked off-piste. Because the ski areas that are known for their great off-piste often get tracked out so quickly that you have to go sniff around in these other sort of family resorts and things like that, like La Rosière and La Tuile, and you can find some nice stuff still that's not, you don't have to really traverse too far to or walk to.
That was certainly true. Val d'Isère felt quite busy when we came back afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and
certainly around Val d'Isère, Tignes, and some of the other big resorts. I would say La Plagne and Paradis Ski, Three Valleys, and things like that. There's still some great skiing, but you usually have to walk a bit at the moment, or at least traverse very, very, very far. And I'm just going to say that a lot of what I'm referring to is the northern French Alps, especially in the Savoie area, because that's where most of my experience is. But please don't hesitate to send a message in and share your experiences. Could be, if you're up by in the Chamonix area, Haute-Savoie, Port-de-Soleil, or down in the Hautes Alpes or the southern Alps as well, like Grave, etc.
A great way to do that is just to add a comment to the page where the video is being where this Hangout is being broadcast, and we can see that and we can pick it up. And so the other question I want to ask you about this, Henry, was they were talking about. I noticed loads of people are going on steeper slopes. Conditions are thought to be generally stable. Today was a 3 going down to a 2.
Sorry,
Sorry, it's 2 going up to a 3.
One here. Two evolving into a 3.
2 evolving into a 3. So we had this week there earlier in the season. There's quite a thick snowpack now. So how come it's all settled out and it's
well, in my opinion, this gets to the theme. Okay, why is a thin snowpack often does that lead to unstable snow, and why is a thicker snowpack, more snow, often more stable? First of all, just remind everyone that 9 out of 10 times or more, the victim of an avalanche triggers the avalanche themselves, or someone in their group does. And in general, when you have a thin snowpack and relatively cold temperatures, like at night, it goes down to, let's say when I say cold temperatures, -5 to -10 or so, which is certainly the case, for example, this year in December, at night at least, even though it was fairly warm during the day, we had a very, very thin snowpack, practically negligible in most parts of the Alps until you got to sort of 2,500 meters or so. And what happens is with a very thin snowpack and cold temperatures is you have a very sugary type of snow that develops for all kinds of reasons that I go over in our first module, in-depth module called triggering. And so I'm not going to get into the whys for tonight's chat, but just talk about what happens. And so what happens over a long period of time where you have a thin snowpack, relatively cold nights, getting down even to -15, -20 will make it even worse, make it even more sugary. And you have a relatively thin snowpack, and when I say thin, anything less than sort of 60, 50 centimeters or less. You have a very sugary type of snow that doesn't have any cohesion, so the next snowfall you get is highly, highly unstable. And it's exactly what we had happen at the beginning of January, the 2nd or the 3rd. We had new snowfall on top of a snowpack that had been developing over about a month or so. There was no snow, thin snowpack, relatively cold temperatures, at least at night, and it was very, very unstable, like crazy unstable through the middle of January. There was a lot of deaths and accidents and things all throughout the Alps, especially in the northern French Alps, and I would say and into the Valais in Switzerland. There was quite a few accidents. And that's not too far from the northern French Alps, and so that was really, really bad. And what happens though when you have a lot of snow, which we've had now in the last couple months, is that a couple factors happen. There's purging, meaning releases on the slopes that were unstable, that helps to kind of stabilize things out. And also this extra couple meters of snow or more will end up creating a bridge-like phenomenon over the weak layer, and also just pressing it down. We also had some rain, which was very good. Rain represents an initial destabilization of the snowpack, making it very unstable to start with, but the net effect, especially as it gets colder, is that you get a much more stable snowpack. So that's why we've had danger ratings quite often in the last month or so, where you've had sort of a danger rating of 3 or 4 above a certain altitude, like 2,400, 2,500 meters, and then below that there's been a lower danger rating, and that's thanks to the rain that got some what we call liquid water into the snowpack, and that refreezes. And above sort of 2,400, 2,500 meters, we didn't benefit from that rain in terms of the stability. And in general, just when you have a very thick snowpack, you don't have conditions that are favorable for creating a weak snow layer. If people remember the season of 2011, 2012, in December, around very beginning of December, we had 2 very big snowstorms that left us with about a meter or more, at least in the northern French Alps and surrounding areas. So we ended up with like 2.5 meters of snow by Christmas time, and that led to a scenario where we had very little. We didn't have a weak layer in the snowpack, and very few accidents throughout that season. I think there were less than 20 deaths in France, which is significant, in that we usually have in France 30 to 35 on average deaths each year. And I'll just highlight before, just sort of foreshadow some of the chat we're going to come up with in a moment about these glide cracks, these big cracks that look really nasty and scary. And that year, if people remember 2011 and 2012, from the middle of December all the way through the entire season, we had these huge, huge cracks opening up all over the mountain, especially after a relative warming episode. These things, even though they're still in France, they're at least by their name thrown into the category of slab. They develop because of no weak layer, and it doesn't take a skier to release them. And they're responsible for a negligible amount of accidents. They're not something that's dangerous unless you're picnicking or spending a lot of time underneath them. So of course, they're not a place you want to be walking up underneath. But generally, and ironically, these cracks that you can sort of see in this photo in the center, right, opening up on some of those gullies. These cracks are an indication of an overall stability in the snowpack in general all over the place on the mountain, except for perhaps where these cracks are opening, but they don't even really turn into avalanches all that often. They represent a real challenge for the ski patrol and the sort of the directors of ski patrols, because it's hard to and actually impossible to predict when they're going to release. So they often will close the runs that are underneath them. Like if those of you familiar with Val d'Isère, the Santons and the L, which are like gun barrel shaped piece, they have big slopes over them that are facing sort of southeast to southwest, and that's where these glide cracks will often form. And so sure, it's a real challenge for the local the local authorities in terms of when to open and close runs, because in recent days we have had a few of these release and they've come down, and they can be dangerous in that effect, but they very rarely create damage or death. Because
this was the first signs of them a few days, probably about five days ago, Henry.
Yeah, they started opening up. Yeah.
And you can see them here. I put the arrow on here, but also this was the other kind of avalanche we have seen a bit of. Which is this one here.
Yeah, recent snow avalanche.
Which is actually just the top breaking off.
But the recent snow was, I believe that the word for that is also like a direct action avalanche. This has been which has been the biggest danger. Even with the fairly significant quantities of snow that we've got in the last 2 weeks, right after a snowstorm, generally the accidents and accidental, artificial by explosives and natural avalanches have been subject only to the recent snow that's fallen. So
when you mentioned what the Peace Patrol are worried about, and these haven't threatened anybody because of where they are, but these,
if we put the arrow in it,
these ones have gone to the ground.
Sliding avalanches. Most of the alpine countries refer to these as sliding avalanches because they slide on the ground, and they are hard to predict. But again, they open, and they ironically, the result of the fact that there's no weak layer within the snowpack, the weight of the snow is transmitted straight down to the ground. And they are activated more through warming, although it's not because of melting necessarily.
And when pistes are closed in the afternoon on a sunny, warm March or April day, it's often, particularly pistes with a south-facing or a east-facing aspect.
Yeah, southeast to southwest facing slope.
It's why the Peace Patrol have done that, because they're worried about these
things coming down. They don't know when they come down. They're a bit, in that sense, they're a little bit like Siracs, on glaciers, the ice falls and things like that, and they're very difficult to predict. They just sort of happen. These perhaps are maybe a little bit more, easier to predict, and that they are active when temperatures get to close to zero or just above zero.
And
go ahead.
Another comment I've heard some guides and people say is that they talk about, well, there's a thick snowpack now, and what it's done, there was a weak layer originally at the bottom, and there's a thick snowpack, and it's kind of bridged above that.
Yes.
And that's creating some stability for now, but that will break down at some point.
Yeah, I think it will break down. It can pop that weak layer, and the weak layer that we had in December, and thanks for bringing that up, probably will poke its ugly head up again once there is some significant melting and weakening of the snowpack through intense heat, and because it will start to penetrate that breakdown of cohesion and strength in the snowpack will start to go all the way down to the ground. And in a lot of places, especially north-facing slopes where this weak layer develops the most, that's another point actually I wanted to make for everybody is that not only that 9 out of 10 times do people trigger avalanches themselves, the victim triggers the avalanche themselves. Most of the vast majority of accidents happen in December, January, and February, and on north-facing slopes, because that's where this weak layer develops when there is a thin snowpack and cold temperatures. And that's where the tricky weak layer will poke its ugly head up again, will be in springtime when when the melting and the breakdown, the cohesion of the snow layer starts to get down to the ground and on the north side of the mountain.
So, so what we have then is these thicker snowpacks are actually better bonded together.
Yeah, in general,
thinner ones tend to collapse.
For practical,
collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thinner ones
Without
are
going into science.
the thinner snowpacks are just more stable and tricky and more kind of capricious, maybe is the word. They're just unpredictable and lead to quite a nasty situation. But that's not the case we have right now. And I think that for practical reasons, what does that mean for you and me? I mean, you brought up today, you didn't understand why Val d'Isère had a danger rating of 3 from this morning, and Tignes had a danger rating of 2. And the only explanation I can come from that is that I know that there's been these cracks opening up around Val d'Isère that have been a big concern to the ski patrol. So that got them to focus on the potential instability of these plaques de reptation, as they call them, or glide cracks. And which is accurate in the sense that a lot of these slopes get the sun first thing in the morning, and those things could become active quite early in the day. And in Tignes, what they chose to focus on was the general stability of the snowpack, except in these very, very, very specific areas where these cracks are forming. And I'll just point out the Météo France for today, Sunday the 13th, forecast a 2 evolving into a 3, I think, because with the warming, that's what they said actually in the forecast, with the warming, you get some instability on the south-ish facing slopes, and these glide cracks could become active. I think what tells the true story is that Météo France put it at a 2 for tomorrow for the whole day. And for us, what that means is that where there is some nice snow, what I've been doing with my groups, for example, and the people I've been skiing with, is we're not discounting the possibility of an avalanche, especially on the north-facing slopes where the good snow is, where you pointed that out. There still is this possibility of triggering a slab, but if you look around, the rare case where there is a slab avalanche that's been triggered or released naturally, they're not much bigger than 10, 15 meters wide.
No, they're not.
And on steep slopes, and theoretically, if you take the definition of a 2, it's usually about a group of people. The load that's needed to release an avalanche is a group of people. So we've been skiing about 10, 15 meters apart, and still being very, very conscious of terrain traps below, especially cliffs and like a very narrow valley bottom below, which is usually what catches people out in these conditions.
There was another thing we wanted to talk about in Avalanche Risk 3.
Yeah.
Which I guess we probably get. I know it's 2 tomorrow, but we'll probably get a 3 again at some point.
Yes.
And you shared this with us, Henry.
Yes,
Do you want to talk about this graph a bit?
Yeah, I'm going to talk. I'm thinking this graph really struck me so much that I'm thinking of just presenting it every time I present everything about avalanches within the context of Henry's avalanche talk, because our goal, our mission, is to help people like you all have fun and be safe on the mountains. And the danger ratings is something that pose a problem in understanding, not only for just general enthusiasts of off-piste, but also professionals and the whole international avalanche community. The thing that this really sums up some of the challenges we have when we're trying to give these ratings, which are I think are a good thing, because they help us to give some points of reference to what's going on the mountain. But the thing that struck me in terms of the challenges and trying to shed some light on these challenges is the red and the black to start with. The red curve is the probability of avalanches, which that's very straightforward. It's low probability to moderate, it goes up a bit. Considerable, it goes up a little bit, and then you get sort of When you get to high, it starts going up, and then extreme, there's a higher probability of avalanche. It's all proportionate to the increase of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is the international rating.
The green low is what I'm sure everybody knows this. The green low is 1, moderate's 2, the orange is 3, the red one's 4, and the dark red one's
is 5. Exactly.
Yeah.
But what I think communicates very clearly the challenge for all of us, especially us trying to help you be aware and have fun and be safe in the mountains, is the black curve, where you have fatalities, which, as you can see, increases significantly when you get to a danger rating of 3, and then actually backs off when so it's proportionate at the beginning to the increase of probability of avalanches, but then it gets disproportionate to the probability of avalanches once you start getting to the middle of a danger rating of 3. It actually comes down.
And I think this might be something to do with the blue line here, which is trying to demonstrate something that is that when the avalanche rating's 1, we're quite confident of our decision making.
Yeah.
When the avalanche, so we're blue, the confidence of our decision making is high.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're at 5 or even 4,
yes,
we're quite confident there's a high risk.
Yes, we sort of stay at a
so we back
slope
off.
Angles lower than 30 degrees, which is that cutoff point where slab avalanches of any consequence can happen.
And the problem at 3 is that the decision making is some ways is trickier.
It's trickier, yeah. So I think decision confidence, I guess that was a survey that surveyed people on how confident they were in their decisions, or just errors in decision making. Like, I think what I think demonstrates or at least shed some light on why this is the case, why there's so many fatalities at a point where the probability of avalanches is moderate to low, in that 2 to 3 area, is, I think, at the beginning of the week, this week in the northern French Alps, where there were deaths and big accidents, were on very steep slopes over cliffs, for example. So people were making flawed decisions based on the fact that there weren't that many avalanche. There was very little avalanche activity around, and actually, as we said, the only bits that were going were the top layers. And so people were really pushing the limits out, and that's where really bad accidents happen. And it was the same thing in January, danger rating of 3, but very unstable snowpack. In fact, so a lot of people were saying, "Oh, well, why aren't they putting it up at a higher danger rating of 4 or 5?" Well, the sizes of the avalanches were not huge, even though there was an unstable layer, and
that goes back to the definition.
Definition. So I think another thing we should do is to shed light on the definition of 3, for example, is looking at what was my my consolidated definition, taking the Scottish, French, American, and Canadian interpretations of the international danger ratings and their definitions.
I mean, for me, the big words on this is on 3, it uses the word probable.
Yeah.
And on 2, it uses the word possible. But the other big difference is on 3, you say low additional loads. In other words, 1 skier is enough to trigger it. And on a 2, you're saying that it probably needs more than 1 skier on the avalanche prone area to make it go. Yeah.
Well, that's those are some key ones. And I think one thing that I didn't put in here that I probably should have is that the size of the avalanche increases as the danger rating increases. And so most probably on a 3, you'll have avalanches that will attain the size of 30 to 40 meters wide, and with the exceptional, as they say, also occasionally large size natural avalanches, or accidental avalanches can occur, as we have seen, but that's pretty rare.
So thank you very much, Henry. I think that's helped quite a bit in terms of clarifying the current situation.
Yes.
I've probably got one more question.
Yes.
Just about the upcoming week. There's a possibility of a bit of snow on Wednesday.
Well, I think
and what would that do?
I think the probability of snow, first of all, is along the Italian border when we're looking at the northern French Alps, and that probably goes up and down the entire chain of the French Alps anyway. It'll be along the Italian border with that famous retour d'Est that we commented on a few times, I think a couple weeks ago when we had that phenomena. And I'm pretty confident that that's going to just lead to a situation where it'll be the top layer that will be the most probable of releasing. Same thing that we had in the last storms. So if we if we get 20 centimeters of fresh snow, the chances are that, all things being equal, it'll be 20 centimeters that will release. We need to add in the wind. So if the wind is loading certain slopes, and certain slopes can often have twice as much as the amount of snow that's come down, that means you could have up to 40 centimeters or more on the crown line. And so what we should do is remember that the avalanche forecast and the avalanche danger is that comes out in the forecast is just a forecast, as the name implies. And sometimes, just like in regular weather forecasts around the world, sometimes they forecast sun and it rains, and sometimes they forecast rain and it's sunny. So and this is a message to everybody who's listening tonight, when you go out on the specific day in question, have to look at everything with a critical eye, because actually you are avalanche experts in the area where you are. If there is a danger rating of 3, and the recent avalanche activity is negligible, you don't see any, then it perhaps is more closer to a 2. If the recent avalanche activity is natural and pretty massive, going up to like 50, 60 meters or entire slopes, then 50, 60 meters wide and anywhere from 30 to 40, 50 centimeter fracture lines on entire slopes in some cases, then it's closer to a 4. And so I hope, for the current conditions, that help to clarify things. And also the definitions, I know no one will say that they're really, really clear, especially the danger rating of 3. So our goal here is just to help to shed some light on these definitions so they can help you to go out and have fun and be safe.
So thank you very much, Henry, and thank you all for listening. If you have anybody that you know, anybody who's out there you think would benefit from the comments and the discussion that Henry's just shared with us, then this will be on this page that you're looking at it on, and on our YouTube channel. They can go pick it up. The recording is usually available within a few minutes. So thanks very much, everybody, and we'll be back shortly, and we'll let you know through Facebook or Twitter and email on the next Sunday or Monday that we're able to do one of these.
That's right. If you want to learn a little bit more about all of this stuff and in plain language, we have some online talks that you just go onto henrysavalanchetalk.com and look at online talks, and there's a whole bunch of great stuff there that's either free or costs not very much at all.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much, everybody. Have fun, be safe, and see you soon.